Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I want to say thanks and major props to Dynamite for sending me these copies of The Boys Omnibus. That's right, The Boys is now available in its entirety in 3 oversized omnibus editions from Dynamite. Now, you can get these at your local comic shop. You can get them on dynamicforces.com. And if you do get them on dynamicforces.com, be sure to enter Robbie at your cart. That will save you 10% off of your purchase. And you can also check out their Kickstarter. I'll have a link in the description below where these are also available there, and you can tag on all kinds of extra goodies. I started reading The Boys when it first came out. I eventually fell out of it, so I always intended on going back. Dynamite, thank you so much for giving me that opportunity, and I have been watching the show, catching up on it because I missed out. Season 1, I've gone 4 episodes through. Y'all, I'm loving that show. We'll be talking about that on Rockin' Robbie Lives coming up. But anyway, Dynamite, thank you so much for sending me The Boys Omnibuses. I'm very excited to dive into that. But now it's time for the Pick of the Week. And this week's Pick of the Week, Agent of W.O.R.L.D.E, #1 from Scout Comics. Now, this is written by Dennis Camp with artwork by, I believe it's Phila Bratutkin. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. I probably did. You got coloring by Jason W.O.R.L.D.E and lettering by Hassan Otsman-El-Howe. This book is fantastic. Now, we had Dennis on the show last year. This book was originally supposed to be published as Chaos Agent. It went through a series of delays, but now it is back. It's finally here. Agent of W.O.R.L.D.E #1. I'm telling y'all, this book is awesome. This book is so freaking crazy. It's everything that I love about comic books. This is not something you're going to get in a television show. This isn't something you're going to get in a movie. Hell, it's not even something you're going to get in a novel. This is absolutely amazing, wild, crazy science fiction. Brilliant, imaginative ideas just flung all over the place with a violent assault on the senses with the artwork. There is hyper detail, texture, the coloring is amazing, the lettering is amazing, the ideas, the concepts, and the characterizations are amazing. Dennis Camp is a writer very much like a Grant Morrison, Warren Ellis combo, but definitely his own distinctive voice and style. And the artwork by Phila is freaking phenomenal. A little bit Mobius, a little bit Jeff Darrow, but distinctly their own as well. I absolutely loved this book. It blew me away when I first read it, and every time I've read this, and I've read this book multiple times, and I've read some of the other issues coming up, this book is awesome. It's fan-frickin-tastic. And Dennis should be here on the show July 21st, I believe, for a conversation, so very excited to have him back on the show. But y'all, killed it. This book was awesome. By far, the pick of the week for me. Then we go to Image, and we got Public Domain, issue #1 by Chip Zdarsky. So it's nice to see a return of Chip Zdarsky to illustration, and he's illustrating the book, and the artwork is exactly what you've come to expect, maybe a little bit more clean and, I don't know, like confident. There's something confident in the line and something very confident in the story. I liked this story. It's a grounded story. It's about a superhero, but it's fictional superhero, and it's about the family of the father who was the artist who created the superhero. So this superhero has spawned this whole franchise of movies. His 2 kids, they're not really that into it. He's older. He's not getting the respect. He's not seeing the money. He's not even really credited as the creator because the writer kind of stole all that away from him. Sound familiar? So Chip Zdarsky's making some meta commentary on the industry, but doing it very vibrantly and blatantly, but also doing it through a story about 2 sons and their father and his work and their appreciation of it. Absolutely amazing. Really cool look into the unfortunate sides of the comic book industry, but really grounded in the heart of the story, which is about that family. Then we got Sins of the Black Flamingo, issue #1. This is a new one from Image Comics. Andrew Wheeler, Travis Moore, Tamara Bonvillain, Aditya Bidikar. I was looking forward to checking this book out because I knew for sure it would be great artwork. And the artwork is super solid. It is colorful. The line work is great. And it's got some decent enough ideas. It was all right. It was a little bit verbose. It kind of stalled out the pace of it just a little bit. And there was just a dynamic energy that was just lacking. And I was kind of disappointed in this one, so it wasn't quite my cup of tea, but it was decent enough. The artwork was super solid. Just could have had a little bit more oomph to the story. I don't know, something was lacking on that one. Then we got Ghost Cage, issue number 3. This is the final issue of Ghost Cage by Nick Dragotta and Caleb Gellner, and we got Russ Wooten on the lettering. I've been saying that this book is absolutely masterfully, technically provided to us by Nick Dragotta on the page. It is beautiful. A use of like screen tone that's very much like Katsuhiro Otomo. This book feels like that, not just with the use of the grayscale or anything like that, but also with just the energy of it and the breathing room that these moments have, even when there's a bunch of panels there. So it's expertly done. I've loved this wild, wonky story, and I really liked the conclusion. I thought it was incredibly satisfying for a conclusion as far as the story goes, but I could just stare at these pages for days. I love that artwork. Another book that has amazing artwork is Department of Truth, issue number 19. Martin Simmons on the artwork here. Look at that cover. Look at some of these spreads on the inside. So Cole is just getting deeper and deeper into the mess here in the Department of Truth. And now we're starting to really play up not just some of these ideas of these conspiracy theories made real by these secret organizations that manipulate reality through manipulating the public's perception of reality. It's starting to get really beyond X-Files territory into some real kind of dark, scary, interesting kind of stuff that's distinctly Department of Truth. But in this one, we're also dealing now with Cole, his relationship with his partner, and how that's going to start throwing more, I almost said needles into the haystack. That wouldn't make sense if I would have said that. But throwing more throwing more sticks in the spokes of the tire, something like that. You get what I'm saying? I like this book. This book is cool. The artwork is phenomenal. I really like the story. It does hit a point. This one had a really nice pace. It wasn't just an info dump. It was really more about the character and how this is affecting them and how others are perceiving that, but still deepening some of those mysteries. I love Department of Truth. The book's wild. Then we got 8 Billion Genies, issue number 2. From Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. Really liking this book. The first issue was pretty cool. Basically, one day, randomly, everybody on the planet gets a genie, and they get one wish. Everybody. We're talking about 1 week olds, 1 month olds, 1 year olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 6 years olds. You get one wish, and the world goes into chaos. So there are a group of people trapped in a bar. Some of them have mysterious backgrounds. There's some interesting personal dynamics going on there. And they're stuck there while the world's going freaking crazy. And they all have this wish. And this explains a little bit more about why and where and what. And then also brings some character moments out. And it really has a great momentum to it. So I thought 8 Billion Genies issue number 2 was super solid. Then we got Image with an exclamation point. This is issue number 3. This is the anthology celebrating 30 years. It's got a Jeff Johns, Andrea Muti story in there. That's the one I'm most connected with. It's the Blizzard, but you're just getting little tidbits here and there, so it's hard to keep up, I think, with most of these stories as this goes on. So there's some cool work in here. Scotty Young has a really solid 2-page spread there. We got Wes Craig and Jason Werde. We got Wyatt Kennedy and Luana Ficcio, John Arcudi and James Herron doing a Rumble story. So it's got some cool stuff in it, but just as an anthology with reading so much, it's hard for me to kind of remember these like little 5-page, 6-page, 8-page stories and how far we've developed. So definitely something I would love to go back and check out in full after it's collected and be able to read those stories as a whole, right? Get what I'm saying? Then we got something with sticky on that book. That's not nice. That's not good. Then we got Scorched, issue number 7. This one from Image Comics, of course, Todd McFarlane Productions, written by Sean Lewis with artwork by Steven Sokovia. I really like this book. I really like this issue, building up those team dynamics. But in this one, we're starting to focus on the mystery of, we understand everybody's motivations as to how Jessica has gotten everybody onto this team, but now they're questioning what's her motivation. and we're diving a little bit deeper into her character while still having some big, bombastic Spawn moments that we all expect. The Scorched, issue number 7, cardstock cover, $2.99. Still one of the best deals out there in the market. And then for Marvel, we got Iron Cat issue number 1, a new one from Jed MacKay. This is basically the next series of Black Cat. So if you've been reading Black Cat by Jed MacKay over the last few years, you definitely want to pick this one up. And if you're just interested in this new character, the Iron Cat, who she is, and it's not Black Cat, it's not Felicia this time. So I don't remember this character being introduced until this issue. So this may be one of those spec books, but it's also just a really damn good comic book. Great artwork, great storytelling, just going straight through, a great pace. Dialogue was sharp, and The Black Cat by Jed MacKay has been one of Marvel's undersung books over the last few years, including from me, because I didn't really read it until recently, all in a big chunky trade type way. And so I was on board for Iron Cat. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was nice. Then we got The Variants, issue number 1. It's a new Jessica Jones book. The premise, we know the premise. The premise is Jessica Jones comes up with a bunch of variants of herself from the multiverse. But the first issue, like, it literally ends there. So what is this first issue then? Well, this first issue is kind of where's Jessica Jones been, a little bit of her past, a little bit of her history, of course. That's past and history mean the same thing, Robbie. You know, I should know that. But the artwork's by Phil Noto. It's not the best stuff I've ever seen from Phil Noto. It's written by Gail Simone. It's not the best stuff I've ever read from Gail Simone, but it was decent. It did the job. But we already know the concept, so it was took a while to get there. But it was still good. I still like it. Then we got Thor, Lightning and Lament. Issue number 1. It's a one-shot. There's no more after this. Written by Ralph, not the Karate Kid Macchio, with artwork by Todd Knock. So if you are into old school, like late 80s, early 90s Marvel comics, this is going to scratch that itch for you. It is incredibly dialogue heavy. It is a nice, fun, one-and-done, self-contained Thor story that has all the elements you need in a classic Thor story. It's finely rendered by Todd Knock. But it's not going to change your life. But if you got a kid or something, there's a Thor movie. Someone wants to say, hey, I want to read a Thor comic. It's available. It's available. Then we get Captain America's Symbol of Truth, issue number 2. Not a bad issue. I don't even remember much about the first one. I just remember not liking it as much as I liked the Sentinel of Liberty one. But in this one, it was okay. And at first, I was kind of like, oh man, there's a Deadpool cameo in this one. You know, Sam teaming up with Wade. It works. It works. It has the right amount of annoyance and not too much of it. So I thought it was fine. I actually liked this book in the second issue. After not really being impressed by the first one, this one impressed me a little bit more. The artwork had a little bit more oomph to it. The story had a little bit more dynamic qualities, but it still had some elements of the story that just kind of fell flat for me. But the Sam-centric stuff, even with Wade, really worked for me in this issue. So I thought it was decent. Then we got Venom Lethal Protector, issue number 3. David Michelini coming back to write a Venom tale set in those, like, San Francisco. I don't know if he's in San Francisco here, actually. But set in those early 90s days for Venom. So I am very nostalgic for those. So I like this book. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think the artwork by Fiorelli is actually pretty solid. It throws back enough to those days, but it still has some freshness to it that's a little bit more modern. And the story, you know, it's David Michelini doing what he does. Maybe the style's not something that we see every day on the comic book page, but if you liked Venom back in those days, this is a nice throwback, and I'm having fun with it. She-Hulk number 4. Art's fine. Have no problem with that. The story, the actual story itself, is fine. The execution of this story, this is not an exciting comic book. And that's a problem for me. And that's been a problem for me over these last 4 issues. I am liking this story. I am liking this personality and characterization of Jennifer Walters. I like this friendship and mystery with Jack of Hearts. I almost said Jack of all trades again. And so I'm interested in it. And it's got some cool character moments. But it's just kind of not exciting. It's just sitting around, it's like walking, drinking coffee, and talking half the issue. And that's fine. But I don't feel like things are moving along far enough. So I like it, but I also don't. She-Hulk, very torn. I'm of 2 minds on She-Hulk. That one's sticky too. Well, there was something sticky on the table in there. You know, It's not the first time I've had sticky comics. It sounded weird. Excellent. Issue number 4 out from Peter Milligan and Mike Allred, Laura Allred as well. I love Mike Allred and Laura Allred and their work together. I love it. Madman is my jam. This one's got some absurd characters. This dude right here, for instance, I don't even remember what they call him. I forget his name right now. Fluff or something. He has belly button lint that he can control and make it do things. Like right there, he's using it to turn people into mud or fast-setting glue. Like he's gluing them. It's weird. But you got great artwork. You got absurd characters. This is a continuation of their work from X-Force and Ecstatics back in the day into today. So I really liked it. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have The Swamp Thing, issue number 14 from Rom V, Mike Perkins, Mike Spicer, and Aditya Bidikar. I have loved this series, all 14 issues, plus the 2 issues that came before, that were part of Future State, which were their own story, but just as satisfying, just as literary, just as captivating of the imagination and the visual senses with the amazing artwork attached to it. I love this book. It's got lots of interesting concepts that are being played around with in this issue. It could have easily just been some kind of silly Green Lantern team-up, but it goes beyond that. And Ron B still is crafting the story to explore these new ideas and concepts in the world of Swamp Thing, in the DC mythology, in all of the ever-evolving stuff that's going on with the mythology of DC and Swamp Thing in particular. The artwork is amazing, organic. It's got this nice texture to it. The colors are so melancholy at times into the idea of the sadness of the way things are compared to the way I'm going way off base. I'm just saying there's something about the mood and the atmosphere provided by the colors that I absolutely love. And with Bidikar's involved, you know it's going to be a top-notch book because this dude just has amazing abilities to pick the best books to be a part of. Swamp Thing, Season 2, it is ending with 2 more issues to go. I want it to go on for 75. I want this to be a long, extended run because this is one of the best Swamp Thing runs ever. Ever. Let's say that. Batman Fortress issue number 2 is here. Derek Robertson does a fine job with the artwork here. He's the artist of The Boys. But the writer is something Witta. Is it probably at the end? Something Witta. But it's all right. It's okay. I can't find it. It's whoever the writer is. They do a decent job. It's okay. I thought the first issue kind of had some unevenness to it in the script, like in the dialogue and in some of it, and I feel that here too. So not everything works, but the basic premise is that some invasive force has come to Earth and has taken out all the power. Superman is nowhere to be seen, and it's up to Batman. But it's not up to Batman because he's got the Justice League. But then we have to deal with that. So it's okay. It's decent. But in the midst of all of the superhero books out there, it doesn't do much to distinguish itself or set itself apart. Then we got Robin, issue number 15. Josh Williamson, after the Shadow War, what is the direction of this book going to be? That's what this issue does. It establishes the future of Robin and Damian Wayne in the DC universe from this point forward until the next upheaval. But I like it. I like this book. I think it has a great energy to it. Roger Cruz coming back to do some artwork. That was cool to see. So he did X-Men back in the day with Joe Mad. I remember that. So I really like Robin. I think it's a cool approach to the character, and I really like this setup to what's to come, and I'm very excited to check out future issues. Deathstroke Incorporated is here with issue number 10. It starts the run by Ed Brisson, and it starts Deathstroke Year 1. I really like the Year 1 approach to things. Obviously, Batman Year 1, nobody's ever really topped that or come close to it, but it's always cool to kind of go back and see the beginnings of a hero or a villain, and in this case, a rather complex character with Slade Wilson, not to be confused Wade Wilson. But Deathstroke Incorporated. So the Incorporated is no longer part of this, so it's just like, they should just call this Deathstroke, let's be honest. But it is Deathstroke Year 1. That's probably what it will be collected at in trade paperback, but it was well done. I thought it was cool. It was crisp. It had a nice pace to it. And I'm intrigued because I never read New Teen Titans, so Deathstroke to me was always a character that came in and out, and I've learned more about him over the last couple decades or whatnot, but never really known deep enough about his origin. So it's a cool thing to to flash back to. And then we got Superman in Action Comics with 1044. We're nearing the end of the War-World saga, so now we got to get all the pieces together for the uprising, the resistance, the revolution, the authoritative revolution to show up, right? And that's what this is. Another piece of the puzzle in Superman's force gets found, and that's what we're kind of doing right now. So it's a little bit formulaic, but it's pretty cool. There is a shift in art tones because it goes from Federici to Conrad, and that kind of shift is kind of hard, but it does kind of work a little bit with the way that they structure the story. But I thought it was fine. Another great issue of Action Comics. Then we got Batman Beyond the White Knight, issue number 4 by Sean Murphy. I really like this, with Dave Stewart on the colors. Who is the letterer here? The letterer is And World Design. That's nice. I love Sean Murphy's artwork. I just could read him doing Batman forever and ever and ever. But now that we're into this phase of the Batman Beyond stuff, they are really utilizing that very well into this White Knight mythology that Murphy has been establishing, right? I really like his concepts. I really like his ideas. I love his buildings and his cars. Excellent stuff on the page. I love it. It's got texture. It's got grit to it. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of this book. And it continues with issue number 4. Jumping over to Vault, we got a new one from Zach Kaplan. It's called Mindset. I had to sneak that Martin Simmons cover. That's the artist of Department of Truth. Look at that cover. That's worth the buy alone. But this book's really cool. John Pearson is the artist. Hassan Otsman El Howe is the letterer. But Zach Kaplan, who is an amazing science fiction writer, he's got a book out right now, a couple of them. He does, well, there's Breakout. And then what's the one with the robots versus the humans? Like at Metal Society from Top Cow. But then you got John Pearson doing some really interesting experimental techniques with the artwork. I really like this. So this is about a young man who is a tech graduate or soon-to-be tech graduate. Lots of cool different styles utilized in the artwork through the craft. So I really, really appreciated that. This book's got a lot of density to it, but it doesn't get bogged down at all. You're mesmerized by the layouts. You're mesmerized by the art, and the ideas and the unfolding of the story is really cool. So this young, soon-to-be tech graduate, he's got an idea with some friends to do this app called Mindset, which is supposed to remove influence from your mind. Somehow they wind up stumbling onto the ability to have mind control. Right? So that's the concept, that's the way it gets set up, but the experience and how everything unravels in this issue with the artwork and the way that even though it is dense with panels, with information, with words, it never feels too complex. It really has a nice pace to it. I thought Mindset was amazing. Might be your sleeper hit of the week. Then we got Redman, issue number 1. This is from the creators of Ultraman, it says, and it's from Behemoth Comics. This one is like an Ultraman comic. So it starts off with this whole idea that in the 70s, there were these mysterious broadcasts, right, of this dude, giant dude fighting all these monsters, and people just assumed it was a TV show, but in actuality, it was real. And I guess what people think Ultraman was is, in this reality, Redman. So it's real or something. So most of the issue is a dialogueless fight between Redman, I mean, it's Ultraman, versus this monster. And it's freaking awesome. I love the artwork. I love the flow of it. I love the pace. I love the concept. I think it's a really cool book. Another one from Behemoth that I'm really, really into. From Dark Horse, we have Hellboy and the BPRD, Old Man Whittier. So this is kind of a follow-up to one I think they did not too long ago, but I don't really remember it because they come out so far and few in between these one-shots that it's hard for me to remember what actually happened in the last few if they do tie in together, but it still just presents itself as a nice one and done, typical, nice, spooky Hellbell. His name is Hellbell. Anyway, Hellboy and the BPRD, Old Man Whittier, I really like it, especially like seeing Gabriel Hernandez Walta on the art here. We know him from the Barbalian series, right? But we, in particular, know him from Vision, the Tom King Vision series. Love his artwork there. Also, he did Sentient with Jeff Lemire. That's a fantastic one, too. But I like this book. If you are interested in what a Hellboy comic is like, or even a Hellbell comic, you definitely want to check that out. Then we got BRZRKR, issue number 9, from Boom Studios. I'm loving this book. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm getting a little lost. I'm a little like, wait, how do we get here? I'm a little like, I'm not remembering how we get here. And this is a very fast read. And that's probably what it is. Most of these issues of Berserker read incredibly fast. So over like a month or two, and if there's a hiatus in between an issue, I'm like, where? Okay, how do we? I liked the issue. I love the artwork. It's brutal. It's violent. It's quick. It's really quick. Okay, but like, I don't know how we got here. But I don't. 3 issues left, and it's going to read really tight together. I am certain of that. Then we got Canto. Tales of the Unnamed World, issue number 1. First part of a new miniseries from IDW. It's not the big finale of Canto yet, but we're still stepping our way there. And this is a little bit of an anthology series where Canto and his friends on their journey back to where they need to go are stopped by this crazy dude. He's like a cat. I think he's like a cat or something. Yeah, that crazy dude. And he's like, yo, you can't get across this bridge unless you tell me a story that I've never heard. So they all have to take their turns and tell their stories. You got one story with artwork by Jorge Corona. So the artwork there was great. And then we got one story with artwork by Liana Kangas. So that was great as well. So it's cool to see these different artists take on some stories that are kind of set in the world or in the world of storytelling in the Cantoverse. So it's a nice, fun Canto project to have from BRZRKR and company while we're waiting for that next big moment, because Canto has been a great series. From Dynamite, we have Vampiverse presents The Vamp. I really liked Vampiverse. Everybody's into the multiversal thing right now. Vampirella, Red Sonja, they're no exception. And then you got Dynamite Never Dies and all that stuff. So they're just colliding, right? But I really liked Vampiverse and it was cool. But I really liked some of these versions of the character. Vampirella's character has always appealed to me. So seeing different takes on her throughout different lenses of popular fiction is a cool idea. Like, for instance, there was an invisible one named Invisirella. Like, that's the one that I thought was, like, super cool, right? So you just see, like, this G-string, right? But anyway, Vampiverse is a very pulpy, like, 30s, 40s era set, like, World War II vibe to it. And I liked it. This is a nice one-and-done story. And it was a very satisfying. The Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, the structure was there. The artwork is nice. It's got a great dynamism that propels it forward with momentum. So I liked it. I thought it was pretty solid, and it's got those, like I said, that pulpy kind of vibe. So if you're into something like that, you definitely want to check that out. Red Sonja is here with issue number 10. I've really liked this Mirka Andolfo series. It gets to shed a little bit of a different kind of a light on Red Sonja. She's kind of becoming like a mother to this kid, Sitha, who is starring in her own book in a grown-up version that's going on right now, also by Mirka Andolfo. But I'm liking the book. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm invested in the character. I'm invested in the story. And I like how they're telling little tales in the midst of this big thing. We finally get to a point that's been building up since issue number 1 in there. That was very satisfying. Draculina, issue number 4 is here. Getting a little bit confusing for me, I'll be honest with you. Christopher Priest can do that with his structure sometimes, but overall, I'm enjoying it. I think Michael Stays Maria's artwork is pretty solid for the most part. I really like the artwork in it. I am getting a little bit lost in the story, though. Just a little bit. Then we got The Naughty List, issue number 3 from Aftershock. I think there's only one more issue. I was thinking about dropping it after this one, but if there's just one more issue, I might as well see how it pans out. This is Santa Claus is just a regular schmo. Doesn't really like doing his job, but he's cursed with immortality. His elves don't respect him. So it's a different take on the Santa Claus mythology. I've seen it done before. Think of this a little bit like Klaus, but by way of Bad Santa. So you can kind of view it like that. So it's somebody stole his naughty list. He's trying to track down who it is. They introduced that character here, and it's okay. The first issue I really like, but it's kind of lost its charm on me. And then finally, let's talk about another book from Scout this week. It's from Black Caravan. It's Pentagram of Horror, issue number 2. It's a 5-issue anthology series. And each issue is its own story. It's by Marco Fontanelli, and I thought the first issue had some really badass, awesome artwork, and same for the second issue. I love the color scheme here. I've said this word a lot tonight, but texture. I met Klaus Janson at HeroesCon. I told him his inking taught me about texture on the comic book page, Sling and Ink. So I really appreciate stuff like that. The book is wildly fun. It's a quick read, but you got to just kind of sit on some of these pages. There's lots of cool ideas here. It is a very simple story, but I thought it was expertly rendered. I really, really had a good time with that one. So definitely want to check that one out. Naughty List is kind of getting on the naughty list. Redman from Behemoth was actually pretty freaking solid. Mindset, do not skip out on that one. Batman Beyond the White Knight was super solid. Swamp Thing, though, as always, reaching another level. Iron Cat, perfect for Black Cat fans. Perfect for Black Cat fans. Ghost Cage ends superbly. Department of Truth excels as usual. Public Domain, really solid stuff from Chip Zdarsky. But Agent of W.O.R.L.D.E from Dennis Camp, Phyla Brutukin, Jason Wordie, Hassan Otsmanel, Howe, and Scout Comics. This is the pick of the week, and y'all, I'm not lying. It's like the pick of the month. It's in contention for one of the best series of the year, and trust me, I know what I'm talking about with this book. This book is awesome. If you like big, wild, crazy ideas, intricate artwork, and explosiveness, if you like something that's not like anything else that's out there on the shelf, you want to check that one out, for sure. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. Well, maybe just a little bit more, to be honest with you. Also, you can support the channel at patreon.com/PCP. Thanks for rocking with us. Station, pop, pop, boom. Keep on reading.